Hi everyone, my name is Ruby Powers, and today we're going to be talking about detained and in court. What are your rights in 2025? We're recording this in mid-June 2025, and so things are subject to change. This doesn't take the place of legal advice, but it does provide some information. But ultimately, it's important to have a consultation with an experienced immigration attorney. So let's go ahead and continue. I'm board certified in Texas, and it is federal law, so we can help individuals around the world with U.S. immigration matters. With Powers Law Group here, focus out of the Heights in Houston, Texas, we help individuals around the world on their global U.S. immigration needs. Let's go ahead and continue. There's a lot of things going on right now, and um, there's a lot of news about immigration court and detention. Right now, they're having an all-time high in detention. We're hearing reports that a lot of the detention facilities, especially a lot of them are in Texas and Louisiana and some of the southern states, are at capacity, if not more. And a lot of them are government or privately contracted and run, and they often are close to the border states, and they can get very full if people are not leaving the country and or waiting for hearings, as well as if there's an uptick in apprehensions. And so this is a civil matter, not criminal, but sometimes people are put in the system because of a criminal matter that brings them to attention to immigration. So reasons for detention could be entering without authorization, overstaying a visa, a pending deportation. We're even seeing what's happening recently is that people who are going to court to show up, and if their cases get dismissed, then ICE has been invoking expedited or expanded expedited removal to detain them and to process them without needing to see a judge, but to have a deportation order. Others could have committed have been arrested under the Lincoln Riley Act, a bill that's turned into making even arrests can lead to mandatory detention. Also, missing immigration court or even going to your ICE check-ins can lead into a detention. So it used to be that either you committed a crime or you didn't leave after a hearing, a deportation order, or you were coming back, you had a crime, you traveled, you came back as a green card holder. But for the most part, now it is super expanded to many different considerations. Now, your rights while detained, right to remain silent, to contact and hire an attorney. No one's going to pay for it. You have to, right to request a bond. But there's new case law called Matter of Q Lee, and some other case law that's come out that making it harder and harder to be eligible for a bond. You have the right to humane treatment, including medical care. So these things apply, but you also need to be able to communicate outside of the detention facility. Having funds to be able to make phone calls and to reach someone can be difficult when inside. So it's important to try to have a plan so that if you are detained, you know what to do, because this can be very, very difficult. You have to put money on your account to make phone calls, and to be able to get a hold of, schedule an attorney to come visit you or to communicate with you can be difficult. Um, so immigration courts do not provide free lawyers. Detainees still have the right to obtain legal counsel. Only 17% of detained immigrants win their cases without a lawyer. Statistics are pretty clear. You really need legal representation for the most part for the best results. And a lot of pro bono help their funds have been cut. So it's been nonprofit help, funds have been cut. Now, bond hearings there's either parole requests or bond hearings are usually the way that people can get out without having to win their case. And the bond hearings are becoming more and more difficult with the case law that's been coming out about not being as eligible for bonds. But the gist of it is that you prove that you're not a flight risk, that you don't have any major crimes, and that you have a form of relief or more, and ties to the community. And the more discretionary, the more you know favorable, then the judge will give you a lighter the lowest you can get right now is about 1,500. That is super low. That's super low. When I got a 3,000 not too long ago, like this in 2025, like that was amazingly low. But depending on crimes, a judge, where you are, it can be a lot more. And you have to pay that amount. A legal permanent resident or U.S. citizen has to pay that amount. It's not like with criminal bonds where you can pay a percentage. And so that can be very difficult. You could get a bond, but then if you don't pay it, then you will get deported, or have to pursue your case inside. Now, this is really a hot topic, right? So in early January, the week of January, when Trump went into office in 2025, they expanded expedited removal. And the interpretation of what expedited removal has gotten very, very lenient and vague and broad. It's quite fascinating, the interpretation. We used to think it meant, oh, if you had entered within the last 2 years, but now it seems like almost anybody can be subject to it. But I think that's a whole issue of subject to litigation. But anyway, many people entered and had an expedited removal. They may or may not have had a credible fear interview. May or may not have been paroled in. What we're seeing at this very, very moment is that the USCIS has been emailing those, similar to what story I shared, and dismissing the 589 asylum applications that have been pending, and telling them that they have to report to ICE to get a credible fear interview. So this is a very hot topic that started happening around maybe June 6th or so. So we're going to continue to monitor that in that particular situation, but it does put a lot of people at risk, knowing that they don't have a 589 pending and that they're supposed to interact with ICE to have a credible fear interview. There's been so many changes the last few years. So it really, really is dependent on when did you enter, how did you enter, what were you classified as, what did you get a notice to appear, who has jurisdiction over you, what type of hearing you have, so many different factors. So these are the things you need to bring when you have a consultation to evaluate what your options are. Now, if you're detained, immigrants can be placed in removal proceedings, and the hearing can happen in person or video through WebEx. You're supposed to attend all your hearings, and you have the right to present evidence and call witnesses, but you really need to be prepared, and hearings run quickly when you're detained. Now, in detention, I'm going to be honest with you. The denial of medical attention or poor food quality are common complaints. I'm getting reports of some overcrowding right now. Mental health services are often unavailable or limited. And there can be a lot of other challenges while detained, between language or privacy when you're communicating with your attorney, safety, and things like that. Now, this is the hot topic right now. Even just this last week at the Kessler Court in Houston, but all around the country, we've been seeing increased ICE activity at courthouses, causing fear in immigrant communities. Arrests may happen while attending unrelated court matters, attending court for family, criminal issues. Judges, advocate groups are pushing back against courthouse arrests. Federal lawsuits have been challenging the practice. What's happening is that an individual does not have representation, and they go to court, and because in most of Houston, what we've noticed is if we put our name on the case, then the hearing is vacated and we get a scheduling order, which means we don't have to go to court. And we are doing it over paper, if you will. But for those who don't have an attorney, and if the judge or if the trial attorneys dismiss the case, then ICE, there's been reports of plainclothes ICE officers arresting individuals who did show up for court to proceed, and detaining them. So this has put a lot of people afraid of attending their hearings, unfortunately, which is a whole other issue about due process. Now, a side comment issue is that there's been documentation of U.S. citizens being mistakenly detained or nearly deported. It's important to have proof of your citizenship, legal status, and make sure you reach out to legal counsel. There are ability to do habeas corpus challenges, which is with federal court. um, of whether you've been detained and held without cause or held too long, prolonged detention or wrongful imprisonment. And so searching out, we here at Powers Law Group are, I'm admitted to all the district courts in Texas, um, and we could assist with habeas corpus petitions, but it really just depends on the circumstance of your case. So timing is really critical. I think ultimately what's going to happen is that those who, if you don't act quickly and don't have the resources to hire competent, experienced representation, then many of these issues are going to be, people are going to be just deported without being able to have a lot of recourse. So you have to act quickly and have a plan. Alternatives to detention. I mean, we've heard about this, the ankle monitoring, or like the phone check-in and those types of things. But I think what we're going to start seeing is more aggressive ways of trying to detain and deport individuals. I mean, we can't say this enough. Having an immigration attorney who knows what they're doing, has experience in this type of work is so important. Many of us are very overwhelmed with work right now, and so you need to get a hold of them in advance, so that you have a plan and that you're not waiting to the last minute. Having that relationship, having a screening, being able to talk to the individual. If we get a call and nobody knows any information about the detained individual, then it is very difficult for us to, without charging to go see the individual or trying to schedule up a meeting, for us to be able to find out what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of national, I mean, even in light of the LA raids, and riots, and what's going on right now at the time of this webinar, there's a lot of different groups out there that are trying to be supportive and stand up, and there's protests and things like that. But being preventative, having a plan, having an immigration attorney, having funds available, knowing what your rights are, having your documents organized. We cannot say this enough. This is just so critical for being able to protect yourself and your loved ones. We are here in the Heights in Houston, but we can help represent individuals around the world in the U.S. on U.S. federal immigration matters. Again, my name is Ruby Powers. You can stay in touch with us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, and we have this amazing newsletter that comes out in English and Spanish every other week. All of our attorneys speak Spanish, and including myself, and we have this webinar in Spanish as well. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at that 713-589-2085. This is our second webinar for June, and we are going to have more about stuck abroad, how waivers can bring you back, and navigating the PERM labor certification process. Thank you so much for watching. If this was helpful, please let us know. Feel free to do a review, share it with a friend, family, to get subscribed to our newsletter and other social media, and we'll see you next time.